There's no real way of knowing for sure, but I'm pretty certain that one of the most broken commandments in the whole Bible is do not worry. I mean, think about it. How much time do you and I spend every single day worrying, thinking, churning, going over and over things? We worry about ourselves, our health, our finances, our future, our choices. We worry about our families, those we know and love, and how they're doing and what they need. And then we worry about people that we don't know personally, but that we've read about or seen, that are going through all kinds of things that are hard to imagine. It's easy, isn't it, to get into this pattern, into this cycle of worrying, of things going round and round in our heads, of us trying to future-proof ourselves against challenge or crisis or disaster. How refreshing is it? How refreshing would it be to discover and to be reminded that that is simply not our job, to worry about ourselves. Welcome to Refresh. My name's John, minister from Bethel Church, and this summer we're putting out these short thought for the day videos just twice a week to help capture ourselves in the race, in the rhythm, in the routines of life, just to create spaces for us to draw near to God, to think about His Word, and to ask a specific question, and that is, God, how do you want to refresh me? How does your Word tell me that I can be refreshed? We're going to start today with Psalm 23, a very famous psalm that we've read and sung so many times, but the picture it paints is so beautiful, and the promise it holds, the potential of it, if we really enter into it, is so powerful. So we're going to hear that read in just a moment, but I'll encourage you just before we read it, just to prepare yourself, because this is God's word. These are God's promises we're about to hear, but to remember that these were written by someone who knew what life as a shepherd was all about. These aren't just niceties. He knew from personal experience what it was all about to try and look after a flock of sheep.
The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing.
He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters.
He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for His name's sake.
He refreshes my soul. He, the Lord, this shepherd God, refreshes my soul. The Bible tells us that God created humanity from the dust of the earth. He takes His potter's hands and He forms us. We're of this earth, aren't we? We're physical beings. But then there's a moment in the Genesis story where God stoops and comes near and breathes into the nostrils of early humanity. We're not just dust, we're not just flesh and bone. There is this God breath within us, this spark of life. And it tells us that when God does that, we became a living soul. We didn't receive our soul, we became our soul. And so we are body and soul. That's who we are. And so much of our life is focused on the body, isn't it? But God is the keeper of our soul. He's somewhere in the New Testament talks about God being the shepherd of our soul. The word there in the Hebrew is the word psyche, from which we get our word psychology from. Our inner life, our thoughts, our hopes and fears, our longings, our dreams, essentially the real me, the core me, the part of me that can't easily be defined and captured, the part of me that will survive the death of the body. We're told He refreshes my soul. The Lord is my shepherd. When we say that, we can say that we have everything we need. We lack nothing. Maybe not everything we want, but that's not the point. God knows what we need knows the very best for us and wants the very best for us. And when we ask him, Lord, be my shepherd, when we rely on him in that way, there's such a refreshing for us. In David's day, a shepherd's job was to look after the provision for the sheep. And so he'd lead them to places of nourishment, of sustenance, of pasture, where the water was clean, where the fields were fertile. And then in different seasons, or if the sheep had been there too long, he would lead them on to another place. So he had a plan for their provision. He would know where he was going to take them. He'd go ahead and check that the water was clean of termites and dead animals, and he'd deliberately lead them to places of refreshing and nourishment. He was also responsible for their protection. David, when he took on Goliath, said to King Saul, I've fought off bears and lions, and this Philistine is going to be the same as them. And we know, don't we, that in ancient Israel they used to build a sheep pen out of stones and rocks, and there'd be a gap, a door, a gate, and the shepherd would literally sleep in that gap, so that anything that was coming into the sheep pen would have to come through him. And Jesus tells us that he is the good shepherd who lays down his life for the sheep. So whenever we're worrying about the provision for our life, or the protection of our life, or the plan of our life, we're actually doing Jesus' job for him. It is not my job, it is not your job to worry about provision, about protection, or about the plan. He knows what's next for us. He knows where we should go, and these wonderful promises, he leads me, he guides me, he guards me, he protects me, he feeds me, he provides for me. And so whenever you face a stressful situation where you feel vulnerable, where you feel in need, where you feel lost and not sure what's next, these words are for you. The Lord is my shepherd. Just try it. There's such a joy that comes just in being able to say that. Just tell yourself, tell your psyche, tell your soul, tell your mind, that's not my job to worry about. The Lord is my shepherd. And here's a simple prayer for us today. And I find this so refreshing. Whatever you're facing, whatever it is, big or small, he cares about everything. He cares about every detail of our lives. Just try this prayer. Shepherd me in this. Shepherd me through this. Be my shepherd.